Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Joel from Easy Engineering and welcome back to another video. So today we're talking about percussion in Psytrance and just the importance of layering your percussion and just getting the sound to sit tight within your mix and within your song. So what I've done over here, I've just kind of created a small little loop. I will actually just copy it over to a new place. And I've just got a loop over here. So this is a small little kick and bass loop that I've made. Again, if you enjoy my videos and you haven't seen my Psytrance kick and bass tutorial, I will leave a link in the description down below. Anyway, this is the kick and bass. And obviously what you need is some nice percussion. Now, I need to stress that it is extremely important to choose the correct samples when making your percussion, or even try and synthesize the correct samples when you're making your percussion. A little tip is if you want to make some hi-hats or some snares or whatever, literally just use some white noise. I might do a video later on talking about that. You know, you can get some really interesting results. I think it always comes down to how you process it in the end, but getting the correct sound from the beginning is probably the most important thing. That's why even with your kick in any kind of genre, just get it right and the rest will kind of follow. So right now I've chosen some closed hats and some open hats. I think it's kind of the most standard percussion pattern in pretty much all EDM genres. I mean, obviously Psytrance, you'll find it in some house, some techno, maybe a little bit of drum and bass. But I know drum and bass, it's, you know, not really like jungle where it's you're creating some really intricate rhythms with the percussion and the drums. But I think it's kind of on the same area where you want to create a little bit more movement, you know, a little bit more interesting rhythms using the drums. But yeah, I think this is kind of the most basic pattern found in all EDM genres around the world, and that's just your closed hat on every 16th except for the third one, because that's when your open hat comes. Now you can do it like that and have your closed hat kind of on all 4/16th notes, but you got to kind of think of it as a drummer hitting the drums. Now the drummer is not going to be hitting the closed hat and the open hat at the same time, or generally speaking anyway. I'm not a drummer. So what you want to be doing is having your closed hat placed there, open hat, closed hat again. Now there's two ways of doing this. You can either draw it in a drum rack, a MIDI drum rack, but you can also do it in audio. So you can do it, and I prefer using audio. I don't know, I've just been doing it since I really started. I feel that you have more control over the audio than you do the MIDI. But I mean, obviously when you load up your drum rack, it opens up as simpler. And if you haven't seen the video already, I've kind of briefly gone over what you can and can't do, pretty much what you can do in simpler. So there'll also be a link in the description down below for that one. Anyway, this is the loop. I think I'm talking too much. Now, as you can see, the samples work really well together. They sound very similar. I mean, I can even sometimes go in and use the same sound for my closed hat as my open hat and just have it at just a louder volume, really. But this is kind of where layering becomes important, because you want to try and build up a nice sound bank of percussion sounds, hi-hats, drums, whatever, to kind of give you that really nice big fat percussion pattern or movement, really, because the energy is mostly found within your percussion, within Psytrance, or, you know, any kind of genre, really, house, drum and bass. You know, like, just take a listen next time you're listening to techno, Psytrance, drum and bass, whatever you're listening to, and there's just the kick and bass. Like, yeah, it's, you know, obviously that's the drop, but then when the hi-hats come in and the percussion come in, that's when the energy comes back and you feel that energy return. So what you want to do is you want to build up a nice sound bank with really good percussion samples that work very well together. And this is the importance of layering, really. I mean, you can hear now it works, you know, it's got that flow to it, but it just there's something lacking. Like, it just sounds too thin. So yeah, that's what, you know, you kind of can start layering from there. We'll take that away. Now, another important thing, again, you got to realize that you got to kind of think about it with a drummer hitting the drums. Now, the drummer is not going to be hitting the hi-hat with the exact same precision and the exact same velocity every single time. So what I go and do is I go in, double click on my second closed hat, and I'll bring down the volume to -1 or minus whatever, you know, just kind of randomize it a little bit. See, this one's a -62, just to kind of give it that organic feel, because, you know, it's not going to be so static all the time. I'll show you the difference. So this one's at 0. We'll just do that. We'll have it like that. And if you can do that. See, it's just hitting the exact same time. Sounds very robotic. Now with this one, I will actually go in and give it a bit more of an extreme. Just so you can kind of hear. And that's the cool part, is that you're creating rhythm within a rhythm. You know, you're getting more movement from doing this. There you go, you can hear. See? So yeah, now you can see that it kind of has just more groove to it. It's not as static as... It's kind of a little bit more movement. You know, you can kind of go in and make it a bit more extreme. You can just get a bit creative, but obviously do it if it works. If it doesn't work, don't do it. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do for my closed hats. And then obviously you got your open hat. Now this is when you start layering. Now let's go in and find another closed hat to layer. Now you're going to see the difference. Let's just bring the volume down a little bit. So that's going to be on -10, and we'll bring that down to -16. Let's hear the difference. That's with it, without. Now with the kick and bass. See, it's just filling up the frequency space a bit more. It's filling up the empty spaces a little bit, and that's kind of what you want to do. Now, if you got your samples down correctly, if you've chosen the right ones and they're working well together, you can actually go a step further and space them out, pan them left and right. Not hard left, not hard right, because you don't want to do that. Club systems are in mono and probably going to sound silly. But what you can do is you can just push it a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left, and that's just widening the stereo image a little bit, and just, you know, again, we want to go for that full body type sound with your percussion. There we go, a step further. That's cool. Yeah, I like that. And then obviously, you know, what you can do is you can get a bit more creative writing certain patterns and rhythms. You can do this with MIDI and with audio. I just like working in audio. And what you can do is, this is what I tend to really do at the end of a bar if I'm, you know, kind of just for that kind of break type feel. Or you can do it like this, but maybe not there, kind of like this over here, I think. Yeah, just something a little bit more, you know, extra that you can do just to make it less boring, really. Maybe. We'll see how that works. Bring that down. That's with it, without it. See, again, it's just filling up those spaces, making it a bit fuller, giving it a bit more body. Now, if you haven't already seen the masterclass with Sonic Species, they also stress a lot that, you know, the importance of having a good sound bank of your hi-hats and your percussion, your snares, and also making sure that when you're layering them, that they work well together and everything like that. And I actually went in and, well, I downloaded one of their sample packs, and they've got some really nice top loops that you can use. And again, you kind of want to make sure that they sound well together. They don't sound jarring or disjointed. You want to make sure that they work well together. And again, this is just to kind of fill up that space, bring more width and fullness to your percussion. Now, again, you got to realize that this has been written at 138. We are at 145. And what you can see over here is that it's not quantized, so you can see that the loop is kind of starting to fall behind. It's not going to sync up correctly, and this is fine to the point where it's not really noticeable, because again, the drummer is not going to be hitting the drums at the exact same position, you know, with such precision. It's going to be kind of off balance a little bit. So what you can actually go and do is just add in a groove if you want to just take it that extra step, and if it works, keep it in. If it doesn't work, take it out. But for this, because it's at different tempos, we want to kind of go in and just warp it a little bit. We don't have to go in and do the whole thing. We'll just do just that bar over there, just like that. I think, what's that? That's all of that, maybe. Yeah. And then duplicate it like that. Now, I'm not sure how this is going to sound, but we'll see. There you go. You see it's filling up those empty spaces. With it, without it, see, that's nice. It's got the energy. It's got that rhythm, that, you know, groove to it. There's nothing wrong with it, but it just seems like it's lacking something. And this top loop is actually filling that empty space there. It's bringing that missing link to it. Now that's really cool. And then you can obviously go onto your snares. So I've got some snares set up over here, and what I usually do is I will always layer my snares. I won't really layer my hi-hats if it's not necessary. It all depends on the context of the track, the speed of the track, anything like that. But I've been layering my hi-hats a lot more recently. Again, just to kind of give that fullness, that body to it. Just, you don't want your track to sound thin, but at the same time, you don't want your track to sound cluttered. So it's kind of trying to find that nice little balance with it. There's one more hi-hat that you find in a lot of full-on Psytrance, and that's the I guess the kick hit, where the bass will drop and then you'll hear that little hi-hat come in on every kick. I don't tend to use it, but it will be something like that. Yeah. Let's get rid of this, that, and that, and that. That's not really, see, that's not really working well, but and then they'll probably, you know, have a nice little thing like that. This is all, see, this is all about layers, you know, and then you're building it up. So, you know, it'll be, and then, and then, and then, redlining a little bit. And then obviously your snares. I'm just going to get rid of that because I'm not a big fan of them. Anyway, now my snares, I think you should always layer your snares. You should always try and create a new snare from 2 or 3 different snares, not more than 3, I don't think, because then you just kind of, you're messing too much with the frequency range, a little bit too much. But yeah, I've taken this snare sample over here, and what I've done is I've added a phaser and I've just kind of EQ'd it a little bit over here, taken out the low end. Obviously, what you should always do is take out the low end of all your hi-hats. Even though you don't see any information in the low frequency ranges, it's always good to take it out. Now, what I would do with this is I've got it working. This is without the phaser. It kind of just adds a little bit more, I don't know, just a little bit more frequencies to it. It's kind of just giving that little bit extra to it. You can't really, it's not that noticeable, but there you go. In the mix, it sounds very noticeable. And then obviously compress it just to give it a little bit more tightness. And what I would go and do is either add in a clap or a hat, a snare, but I tend to really enjoy using my claps. Ooh. Nice. And again, let's just lower that volume a bit. I want this to sit a bit tighter, actually. Oh, that's a bit too tight now. Now, obviously, I got to go in and compress this, EQ it a little bit just to make it sit more tighter. And then what I would actually do is create my own snare group within my percussion group, or have my snares sitting separately, just to kind of put a nice glue compressor on it, just to kind of gel them together, obviously. And then what is extremely important is, again, like I've mentioned before, we're trying to get that groove going with the velocity and everything. We don't want it to sound static and just sitting on top of the mix. We want it to have a little bit more rhythm, a bit more groove. So what I will always do is I will always put a compressor on my percussion group and then side chain it to the kick. Not too much. We want to do it very subtly, and just to add a little bit more movement to it. Nothing too crazy. It just kind of takes away the staticness of it. Very, very subtle, but it helps out a lot. Obviously, you know, you're also kind of dipping out, controlling the frequencies a bit more. Now, I did promise that I would go over how to do it in MIDI, but I don't want this video to go on longer than it has to. I think working in audio is really great. You know, you can kind of go in and stretch it and do all sorts of crazy stuff. You know, you can do that and then just get a bit more creative. Like what I've done over here is just when I want to do a break, or, you know, coming to the end of the bar, like with the other kind of duplicating it and then having it like that, what you can do is have it sounding like this. Oh, deleted something. There you go. Right, now to do that, it's just literally, let me go into 16ths. So what you want to do is, obviously you have your kick and bass like this. Let's do that. There you go. Right, now what you want to do is you want to grab from there and then duplicate like that, and then get rid of the bass on the last bar. And you want to do the same for your hi-hats. So go in, delete that one, just delete all of them actually. Grab from there, boom, just like that. Wait, no, yeah, oh, there, and the same for that one, and you get this kind of nice little break. And what you can go in and do is, whoop, you know, just do that. Doom, doom. Yeah, it's really cool to kind of, you know, just get creative with your breaks, and it's all about tension, you know, build up tension and release and everything like that. But most important with this video is just your layering of your percussion, your layering of your hi-hats, getting the correct samples to work well together, and yeah, just kind of get creative and make some interesting patterns, especially with your snares, because you don't want it to be so static. But I think that's when, you know, writing in MIDI kind of will benefit you a bit more, because it's less time consuming and you can kind of create a MIDI clip and then draw in the patterns, and then if one pattern works, you can duplicate it, and it's just a bit more easier than having to go in and then, you know, kind of, you know, and then like that. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. That is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something from it. And if you did, please leave a like or comment down below. And if you want to see more of these videos, obviously you know what to do, and hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you guys in the next one.